Over the last decade, streaming has completely reshaped the landscape of the music industry. And even before Spotify came along, the subject of streaming royalties has been a hot topic amongst artists, labels, and various other rights holders. Now, currently, on average, Spotify pays out a little under 0.4 of a cent per stream in royalties. And that number has gone down over the years, but many artists think it should be much higher. In fact, a group of musicians recently got together to protest Spotify, demanding 1 cent per stream. But will that happen? Is Spotify going to start paying 1 cent per stream? Well, that's what I'm going to explain in this video. And spoiler alert, no, they are not going to start paying artists 1 cent per stream anytime soon. But the reason why might actually surprise you. What's up guys, Justin here, and no, Kelly, unfortunately I'm not sponsored by Spotify, but I am going to explain how their royalties work. Now, before we get started here, I want you to please promise me something. I put together this video for you 100% free of charge so that you can better understand how streaming royalties work, how you can actually make some money from your music, and how to become more successful with your music career in general. So if you do find this video helpful, I just want you to please promise me one thing, that you will hit the subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed to the channel. And for extra credit, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment in the comment section below. That support will help me continue to create free videos for you like this one to help you with your music career. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Why won't Spotify pay you 1 cent per stream? Well, that's what I'm going to explain here in this video, but first I actually want to explain how streaming royalties actually work, the economics of music streaming, how money flows from fans and listeners to the platforms like Spotify, and then ultimately to you, the music creator. And because I already revealed that Spotify won't be paying a penny per stream anytime soon, I'm also going to share some tips with you to help you actually earn more money from your music. So first things first, let's take a big picture, 30,000 foot view of how the economics of streaming actually work and how you end up getting paid. Now, most streaming platforms make money through one of three methods, either paid subscriptions, free ad-supported subscriptions, or a hybrid of both like Spotify does. So Spotify actually makes money from paid subscriptions and free subscriptions that are monetized through ad revenue. In 2020, Spotify generated 8 billion euros, which if you translate that to US dollars is around $9 billion. All right, now, so you might be thinking, well, that's a lot of money. Why isn't Spotify paying artists more? Well, they actually are paying most of that in streaming royalties. Of the 8 billion euros, I believe it was actually about 7.8 billion that was collected. Around 5 billion of that was paid out to artists. 2/3 of all the money that Spotify generates goes out to the artist. Well, not exactly artists. See, royalties are never actually paid to artists directly unless the artist is also the owner of the copyrights. And often, especially with independent artists, that is the case, but not always. Now, Spotify actually pays out 3 separate royalties. There's a royalty for the sound recording, a mechanical royalty, and a performance royalty. Quick side note, if you want to learn more about those different royalties and make sure that you're properly registered to get paid all of those, you should check out another video that I'm going to link to in the description titled "The First Thing to Do Before You Release Your Music." Now, royalty rates vary from one country to another, but this is essentially how streaming royalties break down in the US. Again, so with Spotify in particular, there are 2 primary sources of revenue. There's paid subscriptions, and then there are ads that run on free subscriptions. So when a listener is streaming your music, that stream is being paid for either by that listener with their paid subscription or by an advertiser who paid to run ads on that listener's free account. So for every $100 that Spotify brings in from either subscriptions or advertisers, Spotify actually only keeps $31 of that. $69 is paid out in royalties. And of that $69, about $55 is paid to the rights holders of the sound recording. So typically the money goes to the record label first. If you're a completely independent artist, then you're probably acting as your own record label, in which case the majority of those royalties are going to be paid directly to you. But there could be other people involved as well that might also get a cut, like producers, attorneys, managers, and then whatever's left over goes to the artist. So about $55 in change from that $100 in revenue is paid out to the rights holders of the sound recording. Then there's a little over $13 left that's going out to rights holders of the song. So about half of that is paid to PROs, performance rights organizations. This is the performance royalty, which then gets paid to the songwriter or the owner of the song. So you want to make sure that you get registered with a PRO so you can get that royalty. Then there's also a mechanical royalty that's paid out to the publisher and songwriter. Again, if you're completely independent, you write your own music, you might be acting as your own publisher. So the publisher gets a cut of the royalties, and then anyone else that's involved gets paid their commissions, like managers and lawyers. Now you might be splitting that royalty also with co-writers, and then you're going to get whatever's left over. So If you're an independent artist, I mean totally independent, no manager, no label, no publisher, if you write, record, produce all your own music, you upload it to Spotify using a distributor that doesn't take a cut of your royalties, and you're a solo artist so you don't have to split royalties with bandmates or co-writers, of every $100 that Spotify makes from your music, about $69 is going to you in the form of various royalties. So that's actually not too bad. Now, on the other hand, let's say that you're a major label artist. So Spotify is going to pay that $69 to your label and publisher. They're going to take their cut and then pay out anyone else that's involved, producers, songwriters. Then your manager takes a cut. And if you have any bandmates, you're going to be splitting that with all of your bandmates as well, at which point there's usually not much left. And this is why some major label artists that have songs that have been streamed hundreds of millions of times might only see a few $100 from that. Anyway, the point being that Spotify pays the owners of the music. The more of your music that you own, the more you'll earn in streaming royalties as an artist. And the way that everything's all split up is based on percentages. There's not a set amount that you earn for each stream, even if you own 100% of the music. Spotify doesn't pay a fixed amount for every track that's streamed. It really wouldn't make sense for Spotify to pay a fixed amount per stream because listeners don't pay a fixed amount per stream. Instead, Spotify takes all the revenue that's generated and takes the bulk of it, 69%, and pays that out to the owners of the music. And then there's 31% that's left over. And you might be thinking, well, that's a lot of money that's left over. Why doesn't Spotify pay more of that out to artists? Well, maybe it's possible that they could pay a little more, but probably not that much. Not when you divide it across more than 1 million artists and tens of millions of tracks. Because a substantial portion of that 31% that remains has to go to taxes, business expenses, employee salaries, and various other expenses that are involved with running a business of that size. But 1 cent per stream really isn't that much, right? Surely Spotify can move some stuff around and figure out how to pay artists a penny per stream, right? Well, no. Now, here's a reason why you're not going to see 1 cent per stream anytime soon, and in fact, your royalty per stream probably will most likely continue to go down over time. Now, currently, the average royalty paid per stream on Spotify is, as I mentioned before, less than 0.4 of a cent. And again, this will vary based on region, but on average, it's about 0.4 of a cent. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Spotify already pays 69% of its revenue in streaming royalties. But when you divide all that revenue and all those royalties across all those streams, it only comes out to 0.4 of a cent per stream. So when Spotify earns $1 in total revenue, 69 cents of that is going to pay royalties, and then those royalties currently average about 0.4 of a cent. So to get that 0.4 of a cent up to a full cent, Spotify would have to pay 2.5 times what it's currently paying in royalties. That means for every dollar that Spotify generates, Spotify would have to pay $1.75 in royalties, which is impossible. They would go bankrupt immediately. So calling for 1 cent per stream from Spotify doesn't work. It doesn't work mathematically. It's not mathematically feasible, at least not until inflation catches up and 1 cent of, 1 cent is worth a fraction of what it's currently worth, or Spotify comes up with some kind of genius new business model that allows them to make substantially more revenue from the same number of subscribers. But that's a lot easier said than done, so I wouldn't hold my breath. Now, I'm not saying all this to rain on your parade. Just because there's not a feasible solution that would allow Spotify to pay you more money doesn't mean there's not a solution that would allow you to earn more money. You just have to shift the way that you think about streaming. Sure, you can make some money from streaming royalties, but it certainly shouldn't be your primary source of income. They just don't pay enough. If you actually happen to be in the unique, rare situation where you're generating a decent amount of money from streaming, that means you probably have millions of fans streaming your music. And if you have millions of fans streaming your music and the only check that you're collecting is a royalty check from your distributor, then you need some serious help managing your music career because you're leaving a ton of money on the table. There are way better, more lucrative ways to earn money from your music than streaming royalties. I'll give you some examples in just a minute, but first, we need a bit of a paradigm shift to occur. In other words, you should start thinking differently about the way you view streaming. Streaming platforms are fantastic vehicles to help you get exposure for your music, to help you get your music out to new listeners and build a fan base. Streaming has completely removed the barrier to entry in the music industry. Before streaming, when people actually had to go to a store and buy a physical CD, it was nearly impossible for 99.9% of musicians to get that shelf space for their music to even be in the store. Forget about the money to market and promote the release. Just getting your music into a store where fans could go buy it and listen to it was out of the question for most artists. But that's no longer the case. anyone can upload music to Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Pandora, and any and all of these major streaming platforms. My point is that streaming platforms like Spotify have really opened the door and actually made it possible for more artists than ever to distribute music so that listeners can discover it and become fans. These platforms should be viewed as tools to help you build a fan base for your music, similar to the way that you would view social media. You're probably on social media, you might be posting a lot of content there, but you probably never thought that Instagram should be paying you a royalty for everything you post. So all this to really say that you shouldn't get hung up on streaming royalty rates because one, you don't have any control over that, and two, any royalties that you earn from streaming are just kind of a bonus. That should be one of many revenue streams you have, and honestly, it should be one of your smaller revenue streams. So before we wrap things up, let's talk about that. What are some additional, more lucrative streams of income that you could be making money through? And you should have several. If you're trying to make a career out of being a recording artist, you shouldn't ever rely on just one income stream. You have to treat your music like a business if you want to make a career out of it, and one is the worst number in business. You don't want just one income stream because if that income stream goes away, you're done. So here's some additional revenue streams that are pretty common. So right out of the gate, the big money maker for the biggest artists has always been touring. Even back before streaming, when CDs were 15 bucks a pop, touring made up 70% of revenue for most major artists. Now, I realize that for a small-time artist, that might not always be the case. Oftentimes, you might just be looking for a venue that will let you play. But as you build up your fan base, that'll change. As your fan base grows and venues can start to rely on you to actually get people in the door, it'll be easier to book more shows and you'll be able to make more money from those shows. Next, merch. You're gonna make more money from your live shows when you have some stuff to sell at your merch booth. When people have a good time at your shows, they want to commemorate the experience. Hats, t-shirts, hoodies. You can even sell physical music, believe it or not, especially vinyl. Vinyl is a growing market. Vinyl sales have been steadily increasing year after year for the last 20 years. Now, another quick side note, the idea that nobody buys music anymore is a myth. That's not true at all. Just because most music is streamed doesn't mean that no one buys music anymore. What's changed is why people buy music. So if you'd like to learn more about how you can actually sell music in this modern era of the music industry, check out another video that I'm gonna go ahead and link to in the video description. And you don't just have to sell your merch at live shows, you could sell it online as well. In fact, sites like Spring make it super easy to sell print-on-demand merch at no upfront cost to you. You literally just create a free account, upload your graphics, and share a link to your online store with your fans. And Spring takes care of the orders, it prints your items, ships it to the fan, and then just sends you a check. You don't pay for anything up front, and you don't store any inventory. And just like you could sell merch online, nowadays you can actually play live shows online as well. Live streaming is a great way to build, nurture, and monetize your fan base. You can set up a virtual tip jar and take donations when you're doing your live streams. I just recently did a live online training with Taylor Swift's former manager, Rick Barker, where he explained how to build and monetize your fan base using social media and live streaming. There's a replay of the full session right here on YouTube, so I'll link to that in the video description as well. And that's all just the tip of the iceberg. There are all kinds of additional opportunities when you get into publishing, licensing, fan clubs. As your fan base grows, you're gonna find more and more opportunities that present themselves. You might not fully understand right now how to turn fans into money, but you will, and a lot of other people do, and they will contact you. If you build a fan base, the money will come. But be wary, there are also people that will take advantage of you, so be mindful that an entertainment attorney is a good person to have on your team. In any case, there are a lot of opportunities to monetize your music and make a living as an artist, but the point of this video is really just to emphasize that streaming royalties are probably not going to increase anytime soon. The opposite is more likely true. However, these streaming platforms should really be viewed primarily as tools to help you promote your music anyway. And yes, you guessed it, I have some other videos right here on the channel that I'll link to in the video description, where I get into more detail about how you can actually use those streaming platforms to reach new listeners and grow your fan base. And as your fan base grows, you're going to start to find a lot of additional opportunities and much more lucrative opportunities to generate income from your music than streaming royalties anyway. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, remember your support is super valuable and it helps me continue to create videos like this one and provide them to you for free. So please be sure to give it a thumbs up and say what's up in the comment section. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and tap that subscribe button and tick the little bell icon to be notified as soon as future videos are released here on the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.